Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scary Bad Reviews. We're back with episode 2 of the podcast, and this is my intro. Alright, so it's been a little while trying to put some things together, and the reason that there's been a delay on this episode is because today we have a very special guest with us all the way from Greenwood, Indiana. It is my best friend in the world, my sister Tessa.
Hello. It's me.
So we're going to go over a couple of things. We have a full-scale review of Let Me In, which is a 2011 vampire movie from Netflix. Got some different TV news. Got a discussion about how 2018 has been a really successful year for romantic comedies. Got a little bit of trivia in there to have some fun. And then our 5 for 5 this week is the top 5 movie or TV characters that we fell in love with. So anything you want to add personally about your life before we get started with everything? Anything new? Anything exciting?
I love my dog.
You love your dog?
That's it.
Good old Moose?
Yes, Moose. He is doing very well, and he got a bath today.
Well, that's good that Moose got a bath. He probably needed it.
Yes. That's exciting news when you're 25.
I feel like it will be.
Yes.
All right. Let's dive right on in. We have some TV news. First thing that I want to bring up is that they're currently running the new season of American Horror Story, which is Apocalypse. I don't know if you have kept up with it. I've watched the 2 episodes that are out so far, and it's very disappointing. It kind of sucks.
Oh, I was worried about that. I saw a couple previews, but I haven't watched it yet. I've seen some good, like some people who are really enjoying it, but yeah.
So far in the series, everybody was super hyped because it's supposed to be, tying Murder House and Coven and all of them into this plot, but we haven't seen anything yet. And when that's all they've said about it up until, the series came out, that's what people were anticipating, and we still haven't seen any of it yet. Episode 2 gives us a little bit of Murder House. But so far, the only positive thing that I've seen in all of it is Michael Langdon, the character, who's supposed to be Tate Langdon's evil child, who's the Antichrist. He's a special agent who's trying to guide these people that are in this bunker during the apocalypse. He has this super weird charisma, and you can tell that he's super evil, but you keep getting drawn to him on screen. But other than that, everything in it, the writing is very lazy. It's very canned jokes. Every kind of plot twist you can already tell is coming. So far it feels very lazy and disappointing, but hopefully as the season progresses, we'll get the witches from Coven soon. We'll get a little bit more backstory on Murder House and those kind of things, and it'll get better. But before the season even premiered, because of the success of the trailers, they've already renewed it for seasons 9 and 10. So is there any specific direction you'd want to see them go with 9 or 10? Anything that they haven't done before?
I don't know. I feel like they're honestly overdoing it a little bit. Of course, I love American Horror Story, and I like the premise of everything that they've done so far. But I think that's part of the reason why things are so dry and bland, because they're keeping it going too far, and they're not taking enough time to truly plan it out. It's back to back to back.
With a yearly release, they don't have enough time to really...
if you want something to be as good as your first few seasons, which I think were the best, I think up until Coven, probably it was good. Asylum was the second one. Yeah, I watched up until Coven, and I thought they were written really well, and they were really great, but it kind of started going downhill for me after that, because they're not giving themselves enough time to come up with good new content. So...
It does seem like FX as a network is pressuring them to release a season every September and October, and I understand the same point in that, if you have a yearly television series, it has to be very... I feel like the seasons have to be longer. You have to plan these things out to be a long-running season rather than 11 episodes every year that are an hour long and are supposed to be super intense. I don't think it's going to work for them. And so far, like you said, they're running dry because they've done everything. They've done witches, they've done zombies in it, they've done vampires, they've done haunted houses multiple times, they've done freak shows, they've covered just about everything. So aside from maybe werewolves, there's nothing left for them to do that hasn't been done already.
At least in that realm. If they wanted to go into modern scary, actual things that could happen, if they took a purge route or something like that.
That is true.
They could do that type of thing, but it's then you're kind of taking it off,
and at the same time, the Purge just debuted their TV series on USA Network 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
So that would be a very close call for them, and probably get a nice couple lawsuits from USA Network.
The only thing I can think is just making it more modern psychological type of thrillers rather than going the original, like when you think of horror, these are the things you think of.
Right.
That's the only thing I can really think that they could go to at this point, unless they wanted to take a new twist on something they've done before.
And they've got 2 whole seasons to cover now, because 9 and 10 both got approved for renewal already.
Which is pretty brave of the network. If this turns into a flop for them,
yeah,
I mean, you can cancel it, I guess. There's some type of technical thing you probably do, but I don't know, man.
Speaking of modern psychological, teaser trailer, Jordan Peele is reinvigorating The Twilight Zone. It's coming back in the spring on CBS. So I'm very excited for that. I love
his work. I think that he is just amazing and something we need now, I think, during this time. So I liked Let Me In. No, not Let Me In.
Get Out.
Get Out. That's it. I really, really like that. It was done really well and really messes with your mind when you're watching it. I had a severe headache when I was finished after all the thinking that I did.
But seeing him take over Twilight Zone, because Twilight Zone, after the original series, they had their movie in the 80s, which I think a lot of people underappreciated while it came out and then appreciated it later, as usual horror movies go. But there was this really awkwardly paced color TV version of the Twilight Zone in the early 2000s that didn't run on any major networks. Like, it was almost always on premium channels on cable packages. And it really did not succeed at all. And it only ran for, I think, 3 or 4 years. So I think this is what the series needed, because it's one of the most iconic series in horror and also in television history. And leaving it alone for so long when we finally have the talent to do it again would have been wrong. And so I'm very glad that they're bringing him in to do it correctly. But another thing that I wanted to bring up in TV news is that about 2 weeks ago, Netflix completely removed user ratings from their application and from their services entirely. Now, the only thing that is present is how much that movie matches with other movies that you've watched before. There's no thumbs up, thumbs down. There's no stars. There's no what percentage do you give this. They've gotten rid of it completely. And I really don't understand why. Like, I feel like they're trying to force their viewers to watch certain things because some of their original content may have flopped. Yeah. And they feel like they need to push it further, but
that's probably what I would think. I mean, if you take off user ratings, then somebody has to go in and think of it on their own terms rather than going off somebody else's. I mean, and it could be a really great movie that one person said was really terrible, and then you go watch it and it's awesome. So I think it's just kind of keeping a clean slate for every viewer who goes in. But there's definitely a money play in it. Like, Netflix is making so much original content right now, and some of it is not very good.
Most of it's not very good.
I mean, they have some good stuff. I like some pretty terrible things. So, but there's a few movies on there that are absolutely horrible, and I can see them getting terrible ratings if, like, users could say that it was awful. But they might be missing out on, like, learning what they could have done better.
Right.
With user reviews, but I'm sure the people who are dedicated enough will send some type of message their way.
Absolutely. And this process began, I want to say 2 years ago, when they gave Amy Schumer, I want to say in the range of 40 to 50 million for the leather special, and after 2 weeks, it was still sitting at 1 star, and that was when they took that off and promoted the match percentage system. They still had thumbs up and thumbs down that you could give movies and TV shows and stuff like that, but that was when they removed the star rating system and introduced the matchmaking system. And so that being present and that having have happened and proved that it happened, I think a lot of people will realize, they're just upset with how their original content's going, and they need to make money off of it. If they keep dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into these movies and TV shows, they have to make something back. So it's a little spooky when you see Netflix being like, oh, we don't really care about the thoughts of the viewer. We just need them to watch our content. But I don't think it's as harmful as a lot of people will make it out to be in the industry. I don't think that they're trying to control what you watch. I just think that they're trying to save themselves as a business.
Yeah, they want you to give them the benefit of the doubt, I feel like. And so it's just, I think it's more of an encouragement. Like, give the movie a try. If you don't like it, you can still click out of it. I mean,
absolutely.
They're not like keeping you from, like, you have to finish this movie. So
Someone comes to your door, knocks on your door, holds a gun to your head. You better finish To All the Boys I've Loved.
No problem on that front.
No, and even on top of that, even if people do get upset about this, Netflix always just feels like they are eons and miles ahead of Hulu and Amazon Prime and Vudu and YouTube and anything else that you want to talk about. Like, they're still at the top of this streaming game, no matter how bad things go. So, and I don't think introduction of new streaming services will impact that because Disney keeps on rolling out new information about their streaming service, which is never going to happen. They've been teasing it for 2 years and they still haven't released it to the public, but nothing is going to touch Netflix, and it'll just keep getting the numbers that it does, even if they start to piss off some of their viewers.
It was the first. It's like you kind of like people have respect for the OG, and then Netflix has been a thing before it was a streaming service. You could go, like, similar to Redbox, you could go and get the DVDs, you could get them sent straight to your door. Like, they were on this before anybody else, and so they've kind of gone through all the kinks before anybody else.
Right.
They have more of a better grip on what, like, customers want from them.
Yeah, and if you're the one that can successfully dethrone Blockbuster, you're going to be around for a little while.
Yeah. I do miss Blockbuster.
You see the Captain Marvel trailer, she lands on Earth inside of a Blockbuster.
Yes.
Because they needed to establish within the first 5 seconds this movie takes place in the 1990s. They couldn't think of a better way to say this movie takes place before the 2000s than to have her crash land into a Blockbuster. By the way, that movie looks crazy. Like, it looks so good. And
I loved the trailers.
Thanos is going to be in some trouble for Avengers 4. All right, so that's the TV news that I had for that. Just kind of wrapping those news up. Next up, I wanted to bring up kind of just having a discussion about trends that I see in Hollywood. 2018, out of nowhere, has been a really successful year for romantic comedies. And I think that there are certain things that are similar between the three that we have. We have 3 examples that I wanted to talk about: Crazy Rich Asians, Love, Simon, and To All the Boys I've Loved. And I think there's similarities between the 3 that show why they're succeeding, but it's really just out of the blue because, I mean, for a long time here, since the early 2000s, romantic comedies are just like, these movies are not going to be good. There's like 3 or 4 that have high critical ratings, but they all make money, but people make fun of them all the time. So I think these are a little different, maybe because of the inclusion factor of some of them. You know, Crazy Rich Asians being 2 Asians that are being somewhat forced to fall in love, then actually fall in love. Love, Simon representing the LGBT community. To All the Boys I've Loved, that feels a little bit more realistic than a lot of other situations. You have an Asian girl as the lead. So I think it is that inclusion.
Yeah, I feel like it's just giving people who don't always have a voice this year, and that's a really big part of all movies in the industry right now. We like seeing like people of color, and we like seeing people from the LGBTQ plus community. We like seeing everything, and I think that it brings those communities out to go to the movies, to go stream these movies more so than they did before. Like, Love, Simon was huge, and it was such a big family thing. Like, it was like kids would take their parents to go see it, to like give them a look inside.
Yeah, let them know what they've been dealing with their entire lives.
Yeah, and it wasn't the overly done, like, oh, you're the gay best friend type of movie. Like, right. It was really showing just an average day in the life of a kid who happens to be gay and him going through high school with it. And I think that with that, and as well as like Crazy Rich Asians, like, it's a situation a lot of people in that world have gone through. So I think all of them are just super relatable for communities that don't always get represented in the best way.
Yeah. Just some numbers, by the way, while we're talking about these. Crazy Rich Asians currently sits at a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and has made $190 million at the box office off of, I think, a $60 million budget. Love, Simon is currently sitting at 92%, making $66.3 million in the box office. I believe that was closer, at least less than $10 million budget. I'm not exact on the budget for that. And To All the Boys I've Loved is sitting at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Currently one of the highest watched movies of the year on Netflix. Doesn't have any necessarily box office numbers because it's a Netflix movie. And that was the one that I wanted to bring up firmly next, because that movie, it just seems like, when a rom-com comes out, you usually hear, there's a decent amount of high school girls or college girls who are like, oh my gosh, this movie is incredible, you need to see it. But this is a movie that even after dedicated romantic comedy fans saw it, other people started seeing it, and it's a good movie through and through. I haven't watched it completely yet. I've seen some scenes from it just to be examples of it, but I know that you absolutely love the movie. And
I love it.
What do you feel like it did better maybe than other ones?
Well, it is a book, so that is one thing that draws in more people because they've all read the book and seen like the hype about it. Cinematically, it is beautiful. They took their time trying to make it as pretty to watch as possible, and it doesn't have the cheesy factor. Like a lot of rom-coms have like this cheesy, corny, this could never happen, this is just these characters they're not like me. And she was just a normal high school girl, and her room had realistic things in it, like Harry Styles posters and like things. Like it was all just things that you see in a high school girl's room. Her fashion was high school girl now. Like they worked so hard to make sure it was an authentic representation of somebody in high school now going through, puberty kind of in a sense. So, but for me as a 25-year-old girl, I
You've
can't.
been through it.
I've been through it, and I could just it brought back all the feelings of being in high school and having your first crush and going to these games, getting invited to your first party. Like it was so authentic that I was smiling at the TV the whole time. And like I said, cinematically beautiful. I wanted to screenshot every single still when they would pause because they centered everything perfectly. They laid it out. Everything was pleasing. Yeah. There's not a moment where you'll catch a look and you're like, ooh.
There isn't a wasted shot in the movie.
Yes, and I think that taking the time to plan that out is just amazing. And I just props to whoever the cinematographer who worked on it, because it's absolutely amazing. But I think the relatable part of it, it's good for anybody at any age, and this screenplay is written just as good as the book. So you don't have random things cut out that needed to be in there. You don't have weird lines that make no sense. Everything, if I had the book, I think I could follow along in the movie. And I think a huge part of it is that the author of the book was a major part of the movie. She was there on set the entire time, completely giving her insight. She helped cast. She goes with them on all of their PR events. So I think that all of them being a close community, and Lana and Noah, the two main people, they have great chemistry as well. They're both down to earth people. So if the actors in the movie don't have chemistry, then you kind of don't get to feel anything when you're watching. But
yeah, it definitely does seem like, especially in that window from 2000 to 2010, a lot of romantic comedies had just felt rushed. A big emphasis on the comedy aspect of it. There's not super deep emotion in most of them. And on top of that, the comedy's poorly written. The movie is shot very generically. There's not very much in a backstory. There's not very much in outside aspects other than, most of them just felt like this girl doesn't deserve to get this guy and finds a way, or this guy doesn't deserve to get this girl and finds a way. And there's a bunch of really bad physical humor along the way.
Yeah.
There's a few here and there. I know for a fact, me having seen it, P.S. I Love You is one of the exclusions. That was an incredible movie. But it definitely felt like in that 10 years, in that decade, everything in that genre just felt kind of bleh, kind of wasted.
Yeah, it felt pushed. We need to make this happen. But I also think that something with that is a lot of romantic comedies are people in their 20s and their 30s. Yeah. Most of them, you want to make it appealing if you're going to put it in a theater or majorly on a streaming service like people do now. You want it to be something that people who can pay to go get the tickets will go see.
Right.
So I think by making this a teen rom-com, but
everyone can relate to it more.
And also one that an adult can come in and watch. It's not super young humor.
No.
It's written well enough that an adult could come watch and reflect with it and get it, rather than, oh, these are a whole bunch of like kids dabbing and with fidget spinners. Like, it's not
Fortnite
tacky.
references.
Yes, so there's none of that. So it's good, and it's generalized enough that everybody can enjoy it and be like, oh, I remember those days, like that kind of thing.
And so, of course, now the internet is in love with Noah Centineo, whatever his last name.
I can't remember. The end part, I know it's Centineo is how it's spelled, but I think that you pronounce it Centineo.
Okay. Well, I just know that now, of course, the internet is in love with him, because when you play a, guy figure, you play the love interest in one of these romantic comedy movies, everybody finds a reason to love you. So...
He plays a good dude. Like, you think that he's going to come off being this jock that doesn't deserve her, just like you said, like a guy that doesn't deserve the girl.
Right.
But he's genuinely a good dude, and they reflect him in that way. There's not anything bad, really, that he does. Of course, you have to have a type of conflict in the movie, like, because you need to come up with a resolution, but it's just misunderstanding is the conflict and, like, lack of communication. But... he's a good guy throughout the whole thing and is there for her through the whole movie, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be together.
Right.
So that's kind of, it makes it easy to fall in love.
Well, that's good. Like I said, Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 96. What would you give it off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think I would probably give it like a 90%. I don't like going too far past 90% because there's always something that can be improved. Mm-hmm. But I think the cast is great. It's a beautiful film. It's written well. It sticks to the book. So I would say 96 is a good percentage. It's higher than what I would have anticipated them to give it. But yeah, I would say in the 90% range.
Yeah, that movie will probably save Netflix for the calendar year 2018. I mean, they were having a tough time, like we were saying earlier. And so this movie succeeding in the way that it does is probably going to help them out a lot. Because even though they don't make direct money off of, people watching it, if the viewership numbers are high enough, then that's where the money comes from, is outside merchandise when they get to a high enough viewership point.
Yeah,
so.
I think they're also doing a thing where they're taking actors that do well in movies and casting them in a whole bunch of their other movies.
Yeah.
Because Noah Centineo is in 3 different films that just dropped on Netflix.
Yeah, because he was in the one with the girl from Stranger Things, right?
The Sierra Burgess is a loser movie, which is also good. It's extremely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Extremely unrealistic.
Because that has like a catfish
She
plot
catfishes
to it.
him and through the whole thing, and then like somehow it's a happy ending. Like that's not how it works, girl.
People get murdered on
Neve
the TV
will tell
show.
you on MTV that that's not how it happens. But I mean, he was in that. He did great in that movie as well. He played a similar character, and he's also in SPF 18. I think that movie's terrible. Nobody watch it.
Yeah, that sounds like a teen movie.
Oh my god, but it's written so bad. So he's in those 3, but there's a couple other actors that I've seen that are in a whole bunch of Netflix work. So I think they're kind of doing a good like budget thing where they have certain people who are cast in like all of their stuff.
Yeah. So, 2018 so far the year of the romantic comedy. Everybody thought it was going to be the year of the superhero with Avengers 4 and Ant-Man and the Wasp, but with the success of Avengers still happening, I think that if you look at movies of the year, it's definitely the year of the romantic comedy. Let's get out of that. Let's get into our nice big bulk section. Our big scale review of Let Me In. So just to preface this, Let Me In is a movie that is currently running on Netflix. It was released in 2011. It is a young boy who currently lives on his own with his mother. His parents are going through a divorce. Doesn't have very many friends. Deals with a lot of issues inside of his head. New girl moves in next door, starts to talk to her, starts to meet her. A couple of things start going awry. Notices some strange stuff about her. And that's where I'm going to end it off because I don't want to spoil too much. Keeping this section, trying not to spoil things in the movie. What'd you give this movie?
Yeah, definitely an 8. Yeah, I think I would give it a solid 8. It was really good, and I'm not one for anything too spooky or too creepy, I guess, but this played in with the cute and love, and you root for the characters, so.
Yeah, I had it at a solid 8.5 out of 10 on my scale. The cinematography is very unique. there's a very distinct difference between scenes where things are going right and things are going wrong. Mm-hmm. There's a very warm tone to things that are going right, and there's a very cold tone to things that are going wrong. Chloe Grace Moretz plays the main girl. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head who plays the main boy, but those two work very well together for both of them being,
12 or something.
Yeah, like 11 or 12. Yeah. Outside of the movie and inside the movie, their age reflected the movie very well, and they both work very professionally and very well together on screen. I don't feel like there's any wasted time in the movie. The crazy part about this is that the movie is about an hour and 45 long, and usually when you say a movie feels longer than it is, it's usually a bad thing because you feel like it just drug on forever. But this did that somehow in a good way. Like, it felt like the story kept going, and I honestly felt like I sat and watched a 2.5 hour movie in a good way. Like, I enjoyed being there for 2.5 hours. But this movie is very difficult to talk about without spoiling things because there is a very big spoiler. And literally, if you read the basic bio of it on Wikipedia, it'll spoil it. But I don't like to be that way. So now I'm going to issue our official spoiler warning. If you guys don't want the movie to be spoiled, go ahead and skip on ahead roughly about 10-15 minutes, and we will have this wrapped up. I will go ahead and say in about 10 minutes, I'm going to set a timer. Spoiler section will be over. We'll be on into the next segment. So, timer starts now. Okay, big spoiler. She's a vampire.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the big spoiler of the movie. It's very difficult to kind of skirt around it. The girl's a vampire. Now, with it being a vampire, you kind of want it to be this horror aspect of, like, seeing her be a vampire, and you get 2 or 3 scenes of that. But that's not where the emphasis of the movie's on. They are really diving into her interactions with other people around her because she needs someone to help take care of her throughout her life. And so you don't realize this till later on, but there's always another young boy that she's trying to, like, woo almost because she needs a man to take care of her for the rest of her life. She's stuck at being 11. Got turned into a vampire when she was 11. She's stuck there forever. So seeing the grisly side of the vampire take a back seat to the rest of the story is very interesting, and I think it worked very well in this being an emotional type movie. So
I agree.
One of the things that really differed for me from even other movies about vampires that take the emotional route, like Interview with a Vampire, is that this movie made a really big emphasis on one thing about vampires that most people forget, and that's that they can't go into a building unless they're invited in. Mm-hmm. I hadn't seen a movie really kind of emphasize and put that in our face almost ever. That seemed like it was a really big aspect of the movie. So even with the whole vampire thing, there's a good sense of fear from the boy, and then there's this good sense of chemistry afterwards that they've gotten over it. There's the final scene with her and coming and saving him from the bullies that he finally stood up to. So I think that this movie did a really good job of encapsulating a bunch of different aspects of vampires and focusing more on how they live with themselves being immortal. Like I said, a lot to do with Interview with the Vampire, which I did last episode. But I think it's definitely one that people who don't like horror movies can sit down and watch all the way through because it's not about scaring you. It's about showing you, immortal beings still have emotions.
Yeah, because I don't think I would have liked it if it was focused more on the scary part of it. I mean, I liked everything about this movie except, like, a few of their graphics. I don't know. She's not a very, when she's attacking somebody, it's not very, or when she's climbing up a tree, it looks ridiculous. So you can tell it wasn't like an extremely high budget movie because that wasn't done exactly the best. Yeah. And there was a scene where somebody caught on fire, and I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it didn't look too great. One of the women that she had bit earlier in the movie was in the hospital. Nurse opens the sheets, whole room just catches on fire.
Yeah.
And it didn't look good.
It's completely ridiculous. Like, I get the sentiment of it, but I laughed. Like, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to make fun of a movie and laugh because the rest of it is done so well, and then this one scene that's like, okay, you could have, like, handled this a little differently. But overall, I do really think that it focused really on the emotions of her, and I don't think she completely is, like, using every person to take care of her.
There is an emotional, like, support to it.
She wants to help him and to be there to protect him, but he's also going to grow up and help her.
Yeah.
But I think one thing is that she found somebody who needed like someone to help. He was in a place where his mom constantly asleep after drinking, and the dad was like, your mom's crazy with all this religion stuff, but he wouldn't come help him. And then he has all those bullies at school. So he really needed somebody to come in and give him the support he needed, because the beginning of the movie starts out with him looking in the mirror and saying exactly what his bully says to him with a mask on and a knife. Like, he was already going down a deep, deep tunnel here.
Yeah.
So if she hadn't come along and kind of given him some support and something to be excited about every day, that's how like every terrible thing you see in real life comes to be. So absolutely. I think it was a good like a wake up call as well, like a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, like a PCA and like a way. PSA.
Yeah,
PCA.
there you go. Public safety announcement.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a PSA on like, you need to watch your kids and be more part of their life because this is what they're going through every day.
Yeah. And
then you also see, I thought this was interesting, they showed the older brother bullying the bully.
And that it's a direct line. Like, it's the same thing that the brother says to the bully says to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes straight down. Like, it's like a chain reaction of it. And then, I don't know, I love having a strong female also. She's the one that's helping him. And one of the things he said, but you're a girl.
Yeah.
So I really like that she's like, not exactly. I'm not really a girl. And like you said, it's exciting to see something with the let me in, like, can I come in? And the only time I've ever seen that is in Vampire Diaries, because they play a big role in like, you can't go in people's houses,
right?
But like in movies, you don't really see that often. Like, they of course they say you gotta let me in or something, right. But it's not like they literally showed what happens to her if she comes in.
Yeah.
And you know, then it's like, I knew you wouldn't let me die, and she had like that little sweet moment with the two of them, and I don't know, it was just, it makes you emotional the whole time you're watching it.
I think the only difficulty that I had with this, and the reason that I kept it at an 8.5 and didn't bring it higher, is that, you know, the movie focuses on their relationship and their chemistry and their interactions, but there's never really, very seldom in the movie is there a direct, like, antagonist. Like, there's nothing that you really have them fighting against. Like, I mean, you have the bully for the boy throughout the movie, and that's understood, and that's why she's there, but he doesn't feel like it's enough of the movie to be considered an antagonist. You have the police officer who's investigating the girl to try to figure out what's happening around her, and so it really feels like the actual opposing force is just the fact that they feel like they can't be together. And I think that, I don't know how I felt about that. I don't know how well that fit in with the storyline. I don't know how, because the bully situation gets dealt with. It gets brought back, of course, with the older brother, and that's where the climax of the movie happens and everything is resolved. But I really feel like both the bully, the older brother, and then also on top of that, the police officer, all of that took a back seat to just the idea of, we can't be together because I'm a vampire.
Well, I think instead of thinking of it as like they can't be together, I think the antagonist is the fact that she is a vampire. Like, so many things are going wrong just because she needs blood and she has to eat that way. Like, I don't know, I couldn't tell, I thought he was her brother. Mm-hmm. Do you think it was
the man that was with her? No, because they find the picture.
I know.
He goes in the apartment. I think it's another, like,
little boy that
I think it is.
Okay,
I think it's the same situation.
I think that's interesting. I played it off as her brother in my head, but I think that, like, her being a vampire is the reason that he had to burn his face off and he had to die, and the reason that this, like, boy can't be with her is that she's a vampire. Like, I think that it just. And the reason why she just can't be a normal person. Like, she tries to eat an hour later and she throws up outside.
Yeah, that scene hurt.
It made me feel so bad.
Scene, I don't get sad at movies very often. I understand that there are emotional scenes, but that scene, I was like, oh man, like, that's a good scene to put in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and like, she ended up killing the officer, and I don't think that's something she really wanted to do, but like, he was going to open the window and she could have died from that. So I think the antagonist of this is the fact that she is a vampire. This happened to her.
Right.
I think something that I like way too much information in movies. So I want, like, the backstory, the after story. I want everything. So I think the reason that I'm not giving it a higher rating is because I want to know how she got to this point.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what happened to her you're 12.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to you that you are 12 years old and you are a vampire?
Yeah.
So they didn't give any information except for the small picture that you find and that she likes puzzles. Like, those are the only things you find out about her. So that's kind of a bummer to me.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think an 8 and an 8.5 is pretty high.
It's a damn good movie.
Yes.
Just kind of wrapping it up, like we said, I gave it an 8.5. Tessa gave it an 8. It was in the top 10s for horror movies for 2011. It won multiple awards, got nominated for a lot of awards, did well critically and everything. So it's definitely worth the watch. And on top of this, it's not an American original film. It came from a Swedish film that was Let the Right One in 2009. And this got remade in an American audience 2 years later. So if you want to see an emotional vampire movie, if you want to see different things about vampires being played up, Let Me In is currently streaming on Netflix. And if you can find the original, Let the Right One In, it plays into those ideas as well. So wrapping that review up so that if people who didn't want to hear spoilers can come back into it, we are going to move on to a little segment that I'm going to do now when I have guests on the show, and it's called Promotional Pursuit. What this is that I'm going to ask you 3 horror trivia questions, and if you can answer 2 of the 3 correctly, you're going to get 3 minutes to talk about whatever movie, music, TV show, your own work, your job, whatever you want to is completely your time for 3 minutes. But you have to get 2 of the 3 questions right.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure, as ready as I'll ever be.
All right, so question 1. The Chucky franchise has been lasting for a really long time, and you're already laughing because you're probably not going to get it. Chucky series has been going for a very long time. It's actually going to get a reboot very soon. The original Chucky movie is called Child's Play, as are Child's Play 2 and 3.
Child's Play.
That is not the original name that they intended to trademark. The original name that they intended to trademark was A, Child's Nightmare, B, Revenge of the Dolls, or C, Batteries Not Included.
B.
And you're saying Revenge of the Dolls?
Yeah.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That's not it. Originally, they intended to get the name Batteries Not Included.
Oh.
But in the same exact year, weeks beforehand, another production company put in the trademark, and that is where we get the mid to late 80s child sci-fi movie about an alien ship landing in someone's room called Batteries Not Included.
Oh my gosh.
So.
That's hilarious.
Gotta get both of these right. So we'll see. Number 2. The main villain of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is A, Michael Myers, B, Jason Voorhees, or C, Freddy Krueger.
Oh my gosh. I get all of these guys mixed up all the time. Michael Myers is Halloween.
Okay, there you go. So you can knock that one out.
So I know that's not it. But I don't know the difference between Freddy and Jason. I know Jason has the mask on and Freddy has the sweater. But I don't know the difference between the two. I'm going to say Jason. But that's probably wrong. It's probably Freddy.
I'm going to give you that one because you corrected yourself. It is Freddy Krueger. Jason Voorhees is Friday the 13th series.
Oh, okay.
Michael Myers is Halloween. Freddy Krueger is Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to give you that one.
Okay.
Because you caught yourself. I'm going to give you that one. All right? The last one, and I think you're going to get this pretty easily because you already said it in the last one. Which 80s horror villain notoriously wore a hockey mask?
Jason.
There you go. I don't even need to give you the
Jason
other answers.
Voorhees.
You already know.
Yes.
So you got 2 of the 3 of them right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. Whatever TV show, movie, your job as a social media marketer, whatever you want to talk about for 3 minutes, the floor is yours, starting now.
Oh my gosh, 3 minutes is a long time. Well, this is something that maybe we can talk about for 3 minutes.
Okay.
But there is that new show out, and I think it's called Maniac with Jonah Hill and Emma Stone.
I've seen the trailer for it.
Yes, so that is officially on Netflix, and I am extremely intrigued.
It's him and Emma Stone, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and Jonah Hill is very skinny.
I mean, he was a thick boy, and I've seen pictures of him now, and he's thin.
He's a thin boy now. So my fiance recently watched one of the episodes and said it was very weird, and it reminded him of the show The OA, which is also a Netflix show.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen The OA.
I haven't, but I've seen what it is.
You definitely need to watch it because I think it would be a good thing for you to review. It's very there's a lot of conspiracy theories like around it, and it's very like discussion oriented with people on the dark web. So this is similar in the aspect of it's like there's people who are kept and they are forced to take like medicine or something. Like they all have bad attributes. And they take a pill or something that makes them like relive their worst day, their hardest day. And it's a guy doing an experiment basically on them, which is similar to the OA. It's a guy who captured people and is doing experiments on them because they're different in some sort of way. But I find that super fascinating that this show has two major people, Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, in it. Because that's just, you don't see that very often. Like two people who do not need a Netflix show, but they are. And brings me to another thing. Jonah Hill has released or I don't know if it's out yet, but he produced and like wrote a movie.
Mid-90s?
Yes. Yeah. And I am really interested in seeing that. I think it looks really, really good. I like focusing, not, that probably sounds weird, but like I like kid leads, like younger, like this kid's probably like 10 or something. Yeah. Like I think it's interesting seeing things through their perspective because you don't see it as often. There's another movie that I saw and it was like about a white gangster, White Boy Rick. I want to see that too, just because the trailer looks so good. He looks so funny. He has like a suit on and he's like drinking champagne and he looks ridiculous. Like I feel like that's a calling for me.
That does seem like your kind of movie.
White Boy Tessa.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start your own gang.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wouldn't be a very good gang, but me and Moose, like, the Whiteys.
Dynamic duo.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's my 3 minutes of fame.
Alrighty. So, wanted to try to put that in there and do that with a couple of the guests, have some fun, playing some trivia and whatnot.
I kept it pretty good related.
Yeah, you did. You did do a pretty good job of keeping it related to the TV and Netflix and stuff that we've already talked about. And I'm actually very surprised that you got 2 of those answers right.
Well, you kind of gave one to me.
Yeah, but you corrected yourself. So I was even surprised that you went back and corrected yourself. I knew that you weren't going to get the Chucky one because a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and Chucky's freaking weird. Like, you used to be terrified of Chucky.
I used to be terrified of one of the trailers because he kills someone in the shower, and that made me always check the shower whenever I got in.
They used to have a Chucky that would laugh in the front of Spencer's. And
no, that was a Freddy Krueger statue that would do that in the front of Spencer's, and I would avoid it.
You hated the front of Spencer's for a long time. Oh,
absolutely. It's funny that I watch so many horror movies and like so many spooky things now, because as a kid, I was an absolute bitch.
Yeah, you hated it. Trick-or-treating one year, there was a spooky guy who was passing out candy and scared you, and then you were like, you in your Dragon Tales costume, you were like, I'm out.
Meanwhile, now I'm 21 years old, wishing I could trick-or-treat again. Halloween's my favorite holiday.
I think that's how it happens. You get old, and then you're like, all right, I kind of want to trick-or-treat.
That is kind of true.
And then we're doomed.
Yeah, we're doomed for all time. All right, so last thing for this episode, as we usually end, we're going to usually end most episodes. This is episode 2, so we haven't really established a whole lot. But it's a 5 for 5. There's usually a top 5 list with a certain theme based on my guest, and because we talked about romantic comedies and things of that nature, we're doing top 5 movie or TV characters that you have fallen in love with after watching a TV show.
Woo!
So, what we're going to do, I'm going to give my 5, you give your 5. We're going to go back and forth. Before we give our number 1, we'll give our honorable mentions. We'll cover number 1, anybody we feel like we missed. So, I'll go ahead and start the list off. My number 5 TV or movie character that I fell in love with was the Countess from American Horror Story Hotel, because even when she had first started and people still thought she was absolutely insane, and she was, I've always believed that Lady Gaga is incredibly attractive. I've always been in love with her. I think that she makes incredible music. I think she's a great person. She's a great actress. And then in this role, she gets to do what she does best, which is be super elegant and mysterious, look incredible in every scene that she does. And on top of that, she's a vampire. So that kind of fills everything, every category for me. Like, I absolutely...
Checks all your boxes.
Exactly. I hated Hotel the first time I tried to watch through it. Tried to watch through it again on Netflix. Loved the season. Loved her in it. Loved the Countess as a character. So my number 5 is the Countess from Hotel.
Very nice. Oh, I'm doing my number 5 now?
Yeah.
So my number 5 is Sherlock Holmes. But it's not any Sherlock Holmes. It is the Benedict Cumberbatch.
The Benedict Cumbersnoozle.
Yes. Yeah. It is him playing Sherlock Holmes. I have such a love and respect for him and his character in that show. He plays it perfectly. It is like he was made to be Sherlock Holmes. in my opinion. There are some people who might think differently, but he is witty, he is smart, he is charming, and he's a bit of an asshole and a smart ass in the show, and I absolutely love that in a person. You could ask my fiance, who is a smart ass.
Yes, he is.
So I just think he played it perfectly, and I think that he's the weirdest attractive. He's like attractive in the most weird way.
How'd you like him in Doctor Strange?
Oh my god, he's my favorite Marvel character. I love Doctor Strange. I think I just love Benedict Cumberbatch. Let's just be real. But I just think that he is an amazing actor, and he plays when he's playing a role, he plays it to his best ability, and he just owns it. So
well, there you go. Number 5s are the Countess from Hotel and Sherlock Holmes, specifically Benedict Cumberbatch. So my number 4 movie or TV character I fell in love with is Black Widow from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I'm specifically going with her first appearance in Iron Man 2. Because, I mean, she's absolute badass. Just destroys everybody in the movie. Mm-hmm. Is super mysterious. You don't know who she is yet. Just trying to help out Tony Stark. She got sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's Scarlett Johansson with long red hair, which is a personal weakness. So she's just incredible in the movie. The character's well written. She's awesome. She kicks everybody's ass. She looks incredible. And, you know, at the time I was 12, 13 years old when that movie came out. So, of course, I'm going to be like, So, yeah, number 4 for me, Black Widow, specifically from Iron Man 2.
Nice. My number 4 is Jerry from P.S. I Love You. The best. You've seen that movie.
Good
you
movie.
know how amazing he is.
Very, very emotionally harmful movie.
Yes, and he is Irish, and he has a Irish accent, which amazingly...
It's Gerard Butler, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, so you all know he's just a beautiful man in general. But he does a great job. He plays a very charismatic, like charming, wonderful, lovely human being in that movie. And he's another smartass, and that charms me for some reason. But he's very sweet, and if you haven't seen P.S. I Love You, I definitely recommend it. Favorite romantic comedy, romantic drama, because you kind of feel more than just laugh. But and even you, who's not a huge romantic comedy fan, saw it and you liked it a lot.
That movie hurt.
It's written really well, and he is amazing. So Jerry.
He also has an incredible singing voice because Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. Most people don't know.
He sings in P.S. I Love You too. He sings a little bit in that movie as well.
So number 4's Black Widow from Iron Man 2 and Jerry from P.S. I Love You. All right, my number 3. This is very difficult for me because these top 3 for me are very, very close to each other. Well, actually, 2 and 3 are very close to each other. Number 1 is a definite lock. But my number 3, I'm going to go with Dana Scully from The X-Files.
I was curious who that was. I've never seen The X-Files, so...
Yes. And I absolutely love her. Watched through The X-Files with my parents over a summer. You know, they still continue to watch it a lot whenever it comes on TV. And she is super smart, super badass, knows all of this stuff, is super, like, secret agent. Like, she's tough. She can hold her own. She's a smartass to just about everybody. She knows what she's talking about. And it just helps that she's absolutely beautiful. And she's dealing with, like, alien spooky stuff. So,
spooky stuff.
And there's one specific scene from one of the episodes. There's an episode that they're dealing with, like, some water-type monster. And in the town, it's always raining. There's a scene where someone opens the door after she's knocking on it. And she has, like, a hood on over it. Her hair is, like, all tangled and messy from the rain. And it's just her smiling, and she lifts up her FBI badge and says, "Can I come in?" And I'm like, I don't know why, but this scene is the greatest X-Files scene that there is. Like, I have that scene saved on my phone. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's just mesmerizing to me. So for me, number 3 is definitely going to be Dana Scully.
Very nice. My number 3 is Peter Kavinsky from To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
There we go. Super topical.
Yes. He is just a boyishly charming young man. And Noah Centineo is beautiful, and he's just a boy. Like, he's just I don't know how else to explain it. Like, he's just the general, like, average, typical, like, funny guy. Like, there's nothing. He's not the most beautiful human being I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right.
But he's definitely not, like, below average. He's just, you look at him and you're just happy.
Yeah.
And so when he played Peter Kavinsky, he had a lot of, like, funny quirks, and I just want to be his friend. I want to be Peter Kavinsky's friend.
There you go.
He is probably 17 in that movie, but
I think so.
It's fine. I'm almost 10 years older than him. Yikes.
Yep.
But, it's fine. I love Peter.
So number 3 is Dana Scully from The X-Files and Peter Kavinsky from To All the Boys I've Loved. Number 2 for me is a personal weakness, and it is Scarlet Witch from the MCU movies. I absolutely love Elizabeth Olsen. I can't explain it, but I do. And then on top of that, her having supernatural powers, a really tough past, and having overcome that tough past, feeling like an outcast, trying to find who she is, why she cares about the people she does, the whole love story between her and Vision, everything about the character, I'm just whew. And they even have her, especially in Infinity War, her and Vision have been on the run for a year. And they find her and they start fighting, and she is just lifting cars with her mind while wearing a 90s grunge outfit, and I can't contain myself. I'm in the theater just whew.
Yeah.
It's me. It's my personal preferences, and I just look at it and I'm man.
She is definitely wonderful.
Absolutely.
I agree. She's related to the Olsen twins. She's the older sister.
Yeah. Olsen.
I know, but it's
and they look almost the exact same.
You see it, but she's the healthy version.
Yeah, she's the one that didn't get addicted to crack. So
yeah, kudos to you. Elizabeth
we go far
Olsen.
on this podcast. So number 2 for me is Scarlet Witch from the MCU.
Number 2 for me is Lip Gallagher from Shameless.
I had to look up which one this was because I've never watched Shameless, but I know that the Gallaghers are from it. And I had to look up which person on the show it was. Then as soon as I saw the picture, I was oh, okay.
Yeah, he is a love of all girls who watch Shameless. Absolutely love him. He is the oldest brother. But he, coming from a not so great home in Chicago, is incredibly smart. He is so intelligent, but he uses it to his advantage in bad ways. He's
very manipulative.
Yes, yeah. He's just mischievous, but he is charming, and he wants to do good, but he doesn't. He comes from a bad place, and he just doesn't know how to do good. He also struggles with addiction through the show, and so I think that you get to see the actor Jeremy Allen Whitley, I think is his name. He just plays that role of addiction and shows you truly what people who are alcoholics or drug addicts go through, and some of the rawest moments that happen with them and how it can destroy your life. But they also show him rebuilding his life afterwards. So I just fell in love with his drive to be the best person that he can be, and seeing his fun setbacks. I shook the table. That was me.
So far our list, we're getting close to number 1 here. So far our list, I have the Countess from Hotel, Black Widow from Iron Man 2, Dana Scully from the X-Files, and Scarlet Witch from the MCU. So far you have Sherlock Holmes, the Benedict Cumberbatch version. You have Jerry from P.S. I Love You. You have Peter Kavinsky, and you have Lip Gallagher. So before we go through our number 1s, what are some honorable mentions that you had?
So I had a few. One is Chuck Bass from Gossip Girl, and
suave individual.
He literally his response when people say, "Why did you do that?" is, "I'm Chuck Bass." If you can just say your name in response to something, it just makes you. And plus, he's a millionaire. He's just a trust fund kid. So I mean, just when I started watching that, which was years ago, because it is a very old show. I mean, Blake Lively was the star of it, and
Blake Lively.
Yes. So is the start for her. It's from way back in the day, high school, and to see a rich New York trust fund suave dressed in a suit every day kind of guy who has no idea of his flaws and just thinks he's the best human being on the planet. He holds high for an honorable mention. And I also have, Brian Finch in Limitless, the TV series Limitless, which also connects to the movie, which I find very, very interesting. They have a couple episodes where, what's his name from the movie?
Bradley Cooper. He
comes into the TV show and he's running for mayor, so he's constantly in throughout the whole season. But Brian Finch is the only other person who has been taking the Limitless pills. And so he kind of works under Bradley Cooper. But he is he wasn't in a good place. He was an addict. struggling. As you guys can see, I like the struggling, brooding people. But he takes these and he becomes the smartest person ever, obviously, because it's these limitless pills. And he helps like solve crimes. But his character is just wonderful and he's hilarious and very entertaining. And I think the actor who is in it, who is also featured in Greek, which used to be a show on ABC, Family, is very handsome. Freeform now, my bad.
Freeform.
But yeah, I think he's super handsome. And then the last two that three, is Nick and Schmidt from New Girl, which they are amazing.
Yes.
Of course, the other people on Winston and all that, they're all great too, Jess, but Nick and Schmidt are the reason that I continue to watch that show, which I think its final season just aired.
Yeah.
But Schmidt's hilarious. He's like OCD crazy. He has the funniest remarks to everything. So complete personality.
Yeah.
Fell in love with him because he's not exactly the hottest guy like trotting around. But also Nick is absolutely hilarious because he is a pessimist and he is just angry at everything, but it makes him absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Love those two. And last but not least, Tate from American Horror Story season 1.
That's a different one.
I loved him. Obviously, Evan Peters holds a special place in my heart and every other girl's heart, but
mine too. I'll take it. I'll accept it. Mine too.
I bought season 1 Murder House on DVD strictly because of my love for Tate, and I wanted to make sure if it was ever taken off Netflix that I had a way to watch it because I think he wanted so badly to just be a good teenage boy, but he couldn't because he had such a he was a ghost. He had such a dark past. He did these terrible things. There were reasons why I don't condone it.
Right.
I don't condone it at all. But I like the dark, mysterious. You want to know everything about him. You want to know why. You
liked him in the episode before they revealed what he did.
Yes, and then as soon as I saw what he did, I was like, how did you? And also a lot of it just goes to the respect of Evan Peters being an amazing actor. So
that is very true.
Those are my honorable mentions.
So, what didn't get into my list? Couple of these are kind of typical. My first honorable mention is very typical for every teenage boy who grew up in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and that's Megan Fox in Transformers. Very first movie. First scene that you really understand what character she's playing is her working on the car. And
every young boy's dream.
There's not really a whole lot of words to use here. It's like once you see the scene, you just kind of understand it.
You just know.
Yeah. Aside from that, I had Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot's version of Wonder Woman in the new movies because she's just an absolute badass. She does what she wants to. She knows everything in the world. She's absolutely beautiful. And, just kind of the full package.
Mm-hmm. That she is.
Another one that I had was Anne Hathaway's version of Catwoman in the Dark Knight trilogy because Anne Hathaway is absolutely gorgeous. Always has been. People just don't pay attention until Ocean's 8 came out. Because in some of the PR stuff for Ocean's 8, they saw pictures of her and they were like, oh my God. But absolutely beautiful all the time. Catwoman is this super mysterious, risque character that if you put people into it, they're going to look attractive. I can't say that about Halle Berry because that movie was absolutely terrible. But we all know that Halle Berry's already attractive, so I don't need to go into that. Slide. Yeah, we'll let that one go underneath the rug. And my last two honorable mentions were actually Anne and April from Parks and Rec. I like a lot of long-standing comedy shows, as my number one is going to prove. And Parks and Rec was one of the ones that I've watched through multiple times. And you absolutely love Anne because Rashida Jones and her character's smart and she's beautiful and she can be funny. And then April because you kind of see Aubrey Plaza grow up throughout the series. And then by the end of the series, she's matured, and even though she's absolutely insane and you never know what's going to happen, you're just like, man, look at her.
Plus her and Chris Pratt,
it's a great pairing.
It's the best, most unlikely pairing that you could have seen.
Oh yeah,
it's great,
and they work so well.
They complement each other so great.
All right, so with the honorable mentions completely covered, my number one movie or TV character I fell in love with. If anybody knows me personally, they know who this is going to be. It is Pamela Morgan Beasley from The Office. Anytime that I need a television on with background noise or anything, or if I don't feel like watching something new, I watch through The Office. I guarantee you in this calendar year, I've watched through it at least 20-something times. I just play it as background noise when I fall asleep, and it's honestly my favorite TV show of all time. I can say that. And every single time I rewatch the show, there's a certain point in it where I realize that I am in love with Pam Beesly. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if she's witty, she's crafty, she's creative, she's charismatic. I don't know what exactly I can pin it down on. But number one fastest TV character I fell in love with, still the most in love with, easily Pamela Beesly. And Jenna Fisher I follow her on Twitter and on Instagram and everything, and she's still ridiculously beautiful. So.
She is. And she keeps in contact with all of them.
Exactly.
All of them are still friends, so.
Exactly. So yeah, that would be my number one.
Well, mine in a similar case is a long-running TV show. It had 9 seasons. How I Met Your Mother. Ted Mosby. He is completely the dorkiest guy on that TV show. I mean, Marshall's pretty dorky, but Ted is like a bit of a loser. Like I find myself in him a lot. Like I find so many things that I relate to him. He is a hopeless romantic, every type of romantic. He is that, and he's a know-it-all. And he's just absolutely ridiculous. But I love him. I just love him. And I love Josh Radnor, who plays Ted Mosby. So, anytime I watch it like you, I play it when I'm trying to go to sleep. I play it in the background while I'm working. They did take it off Netflix, and thankfully I got somebody's Hulu password so that I can still watch it, which I'm still mad at Netflix that they took it off because I was probably the only person constantly viewing it 24/7. But yes, Ted Mosby, everything about him is just me in man form. So I don't know if we could ever be together because we're exactly alike, but I can still love him.
Absolutely. Anybody you feel like we missed?
Oh,
I have one in the back of my head. I think I kind of missed Erin Hannon from The Office. I do kind of love Erin, even though she's a later season character, and a lot of people don't like how she was wrote into the show. But
the actress is adorable.
I do absolutely love her.
I think that she's really good at Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah.
I really do like that character. I can see why people wouldn't like her in The Office. She's not a character you think of when you think of The Office.
Right.
But other than that,
Marshall
from How I Met Your Mother is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that him and Lily complement each other so well. They're funny. They have great dialogue throughout the whole show. Marshall is that character that keeps throwing in one-liners in How I Met Your Mother that just kill you every time you hear it. And he is ridiculous with what he believes in.
Yeah. Robin Scherbatsky was another one that I didn't put in. Yes. That I should have.
The whole cast.
Everybody.
Because, you could, Barney, he's a character, he's something that you don't get to see played that well. I mean, Neil Patrick Harris. I still hold
true to the fact that Barney Stinson may be one of the most dangerous people in any television sitcom.
Yes.
Like, because of how easily he can control people. But that's just me. That's beside the point.
He is extremely manipulative. And, I just think Neil Patrick Harris is just a gift. He is so good at everything that he is in. He was Barney for so many years. He has the booth in his house.
Yeah.
That they sat in the bar all the time. He has that, and I was like, I want that. But I think that hits major all of them. I can't think of any. I mean, I'm sure if I sat here and thought hard enough, I could come up with a million more people. But top of the line, I think those are main people.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our 5 for 5 movie characters that we loved, and that's pretty much going to be it for this episode. I wanted to thank my sister for A, being home this past week and me getting to see her as she lives in Indiana, and B, for coming on and talking about the movie. I know that she doesn't usually like scary movies, so I was surprised that she was okay with watching one that's kind of a scary movie. So
you picked a good one.
I try to. A lot of times I review bad movies, but that's just for the fun of tearing them apart. So, but yeah, thanks for coming on.
Anytime I'm here, because it's not very often, but I had fun.
Yeah, a couple ideas that I'm throwing off the top of my head for very soon. Still going to try to get in to see The Nun, even though now critically it's being said to be terrible, as well as The Predator. That's supposed to also be bad. And Hellfest, I believe is the name of the movie, is opening next weekend, and that looks like it's going to be atrocious. So I would love to just tear that movie apart. So a couple of good ideas coming into theaters next week, and I guess I'll see everybody next week. Thanks for listening.